Welcome to the Lesson 1, Philosophical Thought from its Origins to the Islamic Epoch of the course AIS 3050, that is Islamic Philosophy. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma akhrijna min zulumatil wahm wa akrimna binuril fahm. Allahumma aftah abwaba rahmatik وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So in this lesson, first we will deal with the beginning of philosophical thought, to be followed by the appearance of Sophism and skepticism in ancient Greece, the period of the flourishing of philosophy in ancient Greece, the end of Greek philosophy, or to be more appropriate, the decline of Greek philosophy, and then the dawn of the sun of Islam, and then finally the development of philosophy in the Islamic epoch or period. Now let us deal with the beginning of philosophical thought. The history of human thought, as well as the creation of man, goes back beyond history. So I am sure that you have no qualms in agreeing with me that since the very beginning of man, human thought was already there, because human being, one of its distinguishing feature was his ability to think, that is aql. And at the beginning, thoughts were not properly organized and arranged, and the problems for research were not precisely categorized. But the fact of the matter was that all ideas were now called as science, that is ilm, wisdom, or hikmah, or knowledge, or what we call as ma'rifah, and other similar terms. If archaeological evidence, pieces of evidence would be our basis, then we can say that religious elements of or religious manifestations or human thought were predominant. And if these religious manifestations were dominant, then we can say that most probably Asia, wherein many major religions of the world were born, could be the 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 place or the cradle of philosophical thought. Of course, we don't deny the other places such as ancient Greece, as it is now mostly known. In ancient Greece, in the 5th century before the Common Era, scholars are mentioned who in the Greek language were called Sophists. That is, they are sage, they are learned, they are knowledgeable. But in spite of their vast information, they had about that then prevailing knowledge. They did not believe in fixed truths, and they did not consider anything to be definitely known or certain. For them, if you see a glass of water on the table, it is possible that this glass of water that you could see is only a product of your thinking, and it is possible that that is not applicable to another person, or another person has a different has a different perception or understanding of what you are actually seeing. So here we can see that the Sophists, they were the ones who trained lawyers, or they were lawyers themselves, wherein they engage in what we call now as sophistry, wherein even if the client was guilty because of their skill in argumentation, because of their skill in oral communication, in many times they would be able to win the case. So this trend even contributed further to their skepticism, or their doubt of the existence of objective reality in the social world. Next to that was the period of the flourishing of philosophy. The most famous thinker who stood up against the Sophists was Socrates, who called himself philosophus, that is a lover of wisdom. So when Socrates came, instead of identifying himself as another sophist, as a way of refuting this group of people, he humbly started to call himself as just a lover of wisdom, not a man of wisdom himself, but somebody who loves wisdom. So after Socrates, his student Plato endeavored to establish the principles of philosophy. And then his student Aristotle brought philosophy to the pinnacle of its flourishing and formalized the principles of thought and reasoning in the form of the science of logic. If we have science of logic now, that we owe to Aristotle. Ever since Socrates called himself a philosopher, the expression philosophy has been used as opposed to sophistry, and it embraces all the real sciences. So in this way, philosophy came to be considered a common noun for all the real sciences, and it was divided into two general groups, that is theoretical and practical sciences. And the theoretical sciences include the natural sciences, mathematics, and theology, whereas the practical sciences are divided into three branches, namely morality, domestic economy, and politics. Morality dealing with the self, with the individual, whereas domestic economy deals with the family, whereas politics embraces the community at large. So soon after Plato and Aristotle, there was philosophical stagnation in Greece, and there came to be few customers for the commodities of science and knowledge. And when the Roman emperors converted to Christianity and propagated the beliefs of the church as official beliefs and ideas, they began to oppose the free realm of thought and science, especially during the time of Emperor Justinian, wherein there was an explicit ban on the flourishing of Greek philosophy and free thinking as a whole. So it was during that time that you can see so many philosophers transferring to Alexandria from Greece, uh, on the other side of the Mediterranean. If you can see the map, Alexandria was just on the other part of the sea, which is where we can locate now in today's Egypt. Simultaneous with the said suppression of science and thought in the Roman Empire in the 6th century of the Christian era, another corner of the world, I am referring to Arabia, witnessed the birth of Islam, which highly encouraged reading, writing, and learning. We can see in the hadith, which are common to all of us: seek knowledge from cradle up to the grave, utlubul ilm min al-mahdi ila al-lahd, اطلبوا العلم ولو كان في السين, seek knowledge from cradle, seek knowledge up to even up to China. We are also told that seeking knowledge is incumbent upon every believer, man or woman, or male or female, and many other injunctions of the prophet. It is obvious that the first revelation was Iqra, that is an imperative form of read. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who created. So Muslims began to acquire various sciences, and the scientific heritages of Greece, Rome, and Iran were translated into Arabic. And they absorbed the useful elements and supplemented them with their own inquiries. And in most fields, they were able to make important discoveries. And the scholars of Islamic theology and doctrine reviewed and criticized the problems of divine philosophy from different viewpoints, and caused most of the Islamic thinkers and philosophers to try harder, leading to the enrichment of intellectual and philosophical thought. The development of philosophy in the Islamic epoch. So with the widening of the realm of Islamic government and the inclination of different peoples to this life-giving religion, many centers of learning of the world came to be included within the realm of Islam. And there was a great exchange of ideas among scholars, exchange of books among libraries, and translation of these books from various languages into Arabic, which had become the de facto international language of the Muslims, thereby accelerating the pace or the speed of the development of philosophy, the sciences, and the arts as a whole. So Muslim philosophers were then able to review and select from among the appropriate philosophical principles and to present a mature philosophical system, which in addition to including Platonic and Aristotelian, that is peripatetic ideas, and Neoplatonic thought from Alexandria, and the ideas of Oriental mystics or Urafa, that is Arif, the plural of Arif, and also included new thoughts, and was thus able to excel over all the systems of philosophy of the East and West. So later, this philosophical system came under the critical magnifying glass of thinkers. And Sohrawardi founded a new school of philosophy called Illuminationist or Ishraqi, from the word Ishraq, that is illumination, which had a more Platonic color. Then centuries later, Sadruddin Shirazi, better known as Mullah Sadra, introduced a new system of philosophy which is called Transcendent Theosophy or Hikmat al-Muta'aliyah, which was composed of the harmonious elements of peripatetic and illuminationist philosophies, as well as mystical discourses, or what we call as irfan, to which he added profound thoughts and valuable ideas. One can see his Asfarul Arba'a, or the 4 stages of spiritual journey or mystical journey that he had written before he passed away. So that's the end of lesson 1. So in the next lesson, we will deal with the philosophical thought from the Middle Ages up to the 18th century, inshallah. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.